Hey everyone,
Back at it
welcome.
again.
Yes, the Exceptions podcast. Here we go, episode 14. We are done our big magic series and we're back to coming up with our own material.
Love
I
it.
am Jess and this is Fenmore, and we are two aspiring creatives talking about our creative journeys and what we learn along the way and just some cool stuff. So, do you want to tell any new listeners what type of creative aspirations you have?
Right. I guess we're fairly new in the podcast game.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy. I was just thinking today, like, we have a podcast. Why isn't it blown up yet? I'm like, we're at episode 14. Calm down.
And because we do nothing to promote it. And even though you asked me to look into that weeks ago, I have not gotten very far. But wait, what did I ask you? Oh, what
All right.
what
What
are you
our
all about?
creative endeavors are. Right. So
Yeah.
I am a
Who are
music.
you?
Right. So I'm Fenmore and I'm a musician and
You
I'm
can
working
search
on.
him on Spotify.
Yeah. You can look me up on Spotify. Spotify. You can look me up on Spotify, Fenmore. But yeah, I'm an aspiring musician and working towards world domination. And Jess over here
Hey.
is an author working on
Yes.
writing.
Dominating the bookshelf. Yes, writing, speaking, all about that self-reflection, self-development kind of stuff. You can also find me on Instagram, and maybe I'll post once in a while. You never know.
You never know. It's like Christmas once a year.
I posted yesterday, so no, I just did a story. It doesn't really count.
You know what I was thinking about talking about posting? I was thinking about doing a vlog every day like Casey Neistat did starting
Yeah.
2021. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, here's the thing, like that's just obvious. Everyone knows this. In order for the algorithm to like you on any platform, you have to like post consistently,
Yeah.
literally every day if you can.
Yeah.
And it has to be at least okay material. And that is insanely hard. Like what Casey Neistat did, I think he released a video every day for a year or something.
Mm-hmm.
Props, man. That's actually
Yeah.
exceptional. Talking about
And
things
it's
exceptional, that was
yeah.
exceptional. That's so hard, and they were good too. Like they were
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah, and Gary Vee has done similar stuff. There's a lot of people that have like daily vlogged for years on end, and especially like that is even harder when it's not your full-time thing. Like I just can't imagine if we both got to just focus on that. Oh man, it'd be great. But everyone says that and then they don't do it anyway. No matter how much time you have. It's just an excuse. So something exceptional. You just mentioned one. You had another one you wanted to talk about. So every episode we talk about something that is exceptional that we saw or experienced in the week. And Fenmore's got one for us this week because I do not have one.
Well, it's a show. It's called The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. It's a great show. It's gotten me back into chess. My dad used to make us play chess all the time when we were younger, and I used to be the worst. I used to hate it so much. We do like speed chess as well with my friends because I had like this friend. He was smart, but he was like also really intellectual and whatever. And he'd always like be so competitive about being smart. And we play like chess, and most of the time he beat me. But I couldn't care less. But I realized I actually I did enjoy some of it because now I've found myself playing a little bit of chess online. All thanks to the Queen's Gambit. I love it. It's a show about this genius girl called Beth Harmon. She's a genius. She's a prodigy, but she becomes a drug addict pretty much at the
Spoiler
age of
alert.
oh sorry, right. Spoiler alert. Well, no, that's not really spoiler because
I
like the
haven't
first
watched it yet.
episode.
I want to watch it.
It's the first episode. She has substance abuse
Right.
um,
Okay.
issues starting from a very young age.
Cool. I want to watch it. My sister actually taught me how to play chess like 2 weeks ago. I think I might have learned it in school, but never picked it up again. And then she's been into it. So she taught me, and it was really fun. It was cool.
Yeah, it's so fun moving the pieces. I found it was really fun. That was the only part I liked, was like moving the queen around, like whoosh 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 whoosh.
I know. I wanted to
Um,
like knock them over like Harry Potter, but it didn't happen.
but I was thinking, I was like kind of interested in going back into chess, like really more intense and actually studying the openings, because there's different openings and there's chess theory, and you can spend years learning this stuff. And I was kind of curious doing it. But lately I've been thinking hard about what I want to actually spend my time on and what I want to actually get better at. And
Mm.
um
Do
because
I
I've been
smell a segue?
huh?
Do I smell a segue?
We've been trying to stop Jess from saying segue every time we just try to
I
do it.
ruined the segue by announcing it.
Segue. Here's the
I just want you guys to
segue.
notice how great the segue is, but then I wreck it by doing that.
What a segue.
Just cut that part out, okay? And
No,
continue on your segue.
I'm gonna put I'm gonna put you on blast for not leveling up your hosting skills.
Oh, now that you mentioned that, today's topic is why the heck aren't we leveling up? Slash, what's getting in the way of our growth?
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's talk about the things that get in the way of our personal growth and why is it so hard for us to do things that we know are good for us and to delay gratification and all that stuff. So I thought we could start by talking about some kind of fears that get in the way of us leveling up. What comes to mind for you? Do you experience this? Do you face like, is this a challenge for you?
Interesting. I don't really I don't think I would say I have any sort of fears about leveling up, but that's a very broad term, leveling up. Do you mean just becoming better
Yeah,
overall?
I think, and not fear of self growth. Wow, fear of self growth, but fears of other things that stop us from growing. Like an example would be fears of losing certain parts of your identity. So like even a very basic example of that could be like smoking, for example. People might want to quit smoking, but it has like this identity piece for them where it, is like makes them feel good. It makes them feel like it's a part of even the aesthetic. I don't know, like just stuff like that where like even myself personally with like mental health, like back in the day I didn't want to recover from disordered eating because I was like, well, who am I without that? I'm afraid I'm just going to have no substance, and it's like that holding on
That's
to that
interesting.
suffering that we talked about before. Yeah.
So you identified hard with having an eating disorder?
I identified hard.
Sorry.
I know actually, because I was like, oh, this is fine. It's not really a problem. I didn't tell anyone in my life for a long time. And it was a very personal experience. And I didn't want anyone to know because I think it was just a part of my life where I felt a sense of control, which is something that we all strive for, I think, in different ways.
Right.
Yeah, it was a part of my life, and not necessarily my external identity, but maybe just what I did and thought about like 80% of each day.
So you're afraid of letting that go,
Mm-hmm.
in part because you're afraid of letting go of control. So that inhibited you from
Yeah, I think so.
growing.
And like working in the field I work in as well with youth, I think I see that a lot too, where like what would it look like to not be in a super toxic, dramatic, life-altering relationship day in and day out, even though it's super unhealthy and causing them a lot of problems. They don't want to let go of it because of all of the other aspects of it. Like we can enjoy our own pain and suffering sometimes, I think.
There's a I remember, you remember the song Somebody That I Used to
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah.
Wow, talk about a one-hit wonder. That guy was like, I'm gonna make a hit and then ditch. And he dipped. That's a great song. But there's a line in there that talks about how you can get addicted to a certain kind of sadness. And it's true, sadness can be very addicting. I
Mhm.
remember like My friend was telling me that they downloaded TikTok and then spent like 5 hours to like 5 a.m. watching sad TikToks, crying.
Just so depressing.
It was kind of cute though. I was like, why? The algorithm was like, you want to see sad stuff? Let me show you sad.
Oh.
But yeah, sadness can be actually very addicting. I guess maybe there's some fear entailed in that, where you're afraid to know what's on the other side, whether it's worth feeling anything. Because sometimes sadness is a way for you just to feel something.
Mhm.
I remember I went through my own cycle of feeling very sad, and then when the sadness left, it was just complete apathy.
Yeah.
In some ways,
Right.
sadness was a little better. But
Well,
wow, okay, that went
no,
really
but
dark for a while.
that's a good example. I think sometimes humans just want to feel something and we want to feel strong emotions, and when strong positive emotions are not available to us, that we can tend to cling on to the negative ones, or at least I have that experience anyway, or I have in my past more so. And that's a part of it, and all you can do is be aware of it and realize that, like we talked about in the last episode, you are still you just because you exist, and you are not your mental illness, you are not your struggles, your value is not determined based on how interesting or dark you are. Like, you can still grow and develop and create a new identity.
Yeah, creating a new identity. That sounds wonderful, doesn't it? That sounded
True.
really sarcastic, but it does sound actually. It sounds great. I mean,
This
I've
podcast
always.
is about sarcasm.
I mean, I've spent my whole life changing my identity. Fenmore is actually not my legal name. My legal name is Fenmore David Ramurasata. And then, but usually
Chill.
I make it even harder and add
love
all
it.
like my ancestral surname. So it's Fenmore
Keep going.
David Ramurasata Rakurna Velanjamparani.
Oh, I love it.
But anyway, so my legal name is not actually Fenmore. My family calls me Maefa, so I used to be called Maefa. But then I made a fatal, lethal error in elementary when we moved to the continent, Africa, and I didn't know any English, and it's grade 1 as well, so I was struggling in many different areas of my life. But I had to put down my name, and I forgot to complete my whole name. So instead of Maefa, I wrote Mahi, which in the language there meant egg. And so kids called me Egghead for a long time in elementary, and I hated it. It was really traumatizing. Wow, you're really enjoying this story.
Oh my
You're like silent
God.
laughing. Like,
It's just like I was waiting for what word you were gonna say, and it was just so the cutest word.
Egghead. No, they call me Egghead. And plus my
Egghead
head's
is
an oval
not.
shape, so it really did fit me.
No, your
Anyway,
head is just fine.
so I went by that for elementary. Then I moved to high school in South Africa, and I was terrified. I had so much social anxiety. It was really bad. So I didn't want to get bullied because of my Malagasy name, Maefa. So I changed it to my third name, which is David, because it was pretty, standard. That way I wouldn't get bullied. So I went by David in high school, and which is really weird now. Like my friends now, they're like,
That
"You're
is
David."
so,
Like,
yeah, you
you
just
do
can't
not seem like a
even.
David.
Welcome to the Exceptions podcast with Jess and David. It's just not
Oh,
the
that's
same.
weird. Anyways,
It's weird.
so then when I moved here to Canada for university, I tried to go by my first legal name, which is Fen, but no one can actually say it. It's Feno, but the O is kind of aspirated. People would say something like Fenu or Feno, and it
Can
sounds
you say it
awful.
again
Fen,
correctly? Nice. I can see the shape your mouth makes at the end.
right? Yeah, Fen, but they can't say it. So I just changed it to Fenmore. And I
Yeah.
realized later, I looked it up. Fenmore is actually an old English name, which means dear love. I was like, oh, well, what a coincidence.
Cute.
So that's how I changed
Nice.
my identity like 3 times, like 3 different
Right.
chapters in my life where I've changed my name. So I'm all about like changing your identity and finding new ways, because part of the reason why I wanted to change David was because I chose it out of fear, and I didn't want to
Mhm.
have that mark around me. Like, I never really, my dad's name is David, so I wanted to set like a new path for myself
Right. Yeah, that's
away from
good.
fear.
And part of like talking about identity and changing your identity, part of what gets in the way of us growing is our habits. And I think it was in the book Atomic Habits, he was saying like it like create a new identity for yourself rather than being like, oh, I'm trying to quit smoking. I'm just going to keep using this as the example. Oh, I'm trying to quit smoking when someone's offering you a cigarette or something. Saying and thinking and believing, oh, I'm not a smoker. And flipping that kind of
Right.
script in your head and really identifying with it. Or like, yeah, no, I'm someone who like exercises regularly, like 3 times a week. That's who I am. And starting to really, like don't go crazy and try to identify as a power lifter from, being on the couch every day
No, I
to
lift
then
275 pounds. Let's
be
go.
realistic, but you can change your identity.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a big part of it. Okay, other fears.
Well, just going back to that real quick, because
Oh yeah.
I think that's important that you have the right to change your mind about who you are. And the people that I knew kind of looked at me weird, and I know I got messages like, "What are you doing, changing your name?" Sometimes I didn't realize I've already changed my name like multiple times. Like when I changed to Fenmore, people who knew me as David was like, "What? That's so stupid. Like you're David." So you're gonna get sometimes. I think another fear is that you're afraid people are gonna judge you for trying to be someone else or try to be different or try to change. But you just gotta embrace that and say, "Hey, you know what? I still have a lot of life to live, and I want it to be different, and I want to be a different person, and I want to pursue a different path." Like me right now, even now, I am thinking of changing, not my name, like it's my brand now. Change my name again. I probably will. I'm not lying. But anyways, but even now here, like maybe one of the best versions of who I've been in a long time, I still need to change a lot because there's still so many things that I need to improve upon on myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one of the fears that you can have is like people judging you. And
Yeah.
remember, it's your life and you have the right to live it and be who you want to be. And you have the right to change your idea of who that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you might outgrow certain people in your life, and that can actually be a fear in itself. Like fear that if you change, you won't have the same things to talk about with your friends or relate about. Like say you have certain people in your life that you kind of gossiped about other people with, or you complained with or whatnot, and you're trying to move towards a place where you're more optimistic, or you're trying not to gossip, or whatever it is. Or you're trying to make a new of a habit. Like I think drinking is a big one. When people try to drink less, at least in this culture, there's a lot of it's very normalized to drink as an adult, I think, and it can be challenging when all your friends do and you don't, things like that. So that's another fear that can get in the way.
Right, being cast out, being left out.
Yeah. And I mean, one that keeps coming to mind is just like failure in general. That's a big fear. Like we think that we might fail at whatever we want to grow in. And so we just don't even start because failure hurts us. So we try and avoid it.
Yeah, I think that's when you asked me the question initially, I was having a hard time thinking about it, but I think the biggest fear for me is a fear of failure, not in the sense that I'm not going to get recognition or stuff like that, but just even like finishing the project the way I want to finish a project or doing something to the level I want to do it. But if you don't do it, then you'll never actually level up. You just got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you got to start. And as we've learned, done is better than perfect because perfect doesn't exist.
I don't know. I think there's a point in time where you're just fed up with yourself.
Yeah.
You actually are just fed up with yourself. And sometimes you feel like, oh, this is the point where I'm fed up with myself. But then you go back to your old ways.
Yeah. Well, it's like this, and it's a unhelpful way of thinking because we tell ourselves like, yeah, I'm fed up with myself. I've never shown myself that I've been able to do this before. I keep not following through. Here I am day in and day out, not doing the things that it takes. And then we just kind of further put that identity on ourselves of like, okay, well, I just can't fucking do it. That's just not who I am. This is like negatively labeling ourselves too.
Going back to what you talked about habits. I think that's actually really important. I've fallen off some good habits I've had, which is not a good path. I can tell right away when I've gone off the deep end.
Mhm.
Sorry. Every time I say a lyric that I just
Oh, that's gonna be stuck in my head now.
but habits are a really good place to start.
Mhm.
But they're so boring. Jess, what
Well,
do you do when they're so boring? How do you motivate yourself to
that's
do
why
habits that are boring?
I need to talk to you about delayed gratification because sometimes I feel like all of my problems would be solved if I could just properly participate in delayed gratification. And I'm so bad at it sometimes.
Oh, I've been horrible. I have to look at the planets this week because I don't know. Maybe like Venus is in like the third stratification of Venus or whatever. Or, sorry, Libra. I don't know. No, some planet is just messing up my routine. I don't know what it is.
Right. Well,
Also, if you didn't know, my toxic trait is blaming everything on the planets. There's a cop out. Maybe it's this year. Maybe it's the end of the year. It's coming to the end of the year, and
oh, we're
okay,
gonna
this is
use
my
that
excuse.
fresh New
It's
Year
the end
start.
of
You
the
know what?
year.
Let's just write off 2020 and we'll just wait till 2021 and then we're gonna be great. We're gonna be
Yes.
perfect.
Starting 2021, even though it has no bearing, it actually doesn't mean anything. I love how we just like think that
Oh
everything
yeah.
resets on January
I
1st.
love a good fresh start though. It's a good I mean,
It's
ultimately
simple.
it's arbitrary, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's simple. And to look back on it and be like, what were my goals at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
But with delayed gratification, I feel like I'm of two minds because I want to be present. It took me a long time to get to a place where I allowed myself to like feel and experience more joy in life and actually like live it and be there in it and feel good and not have worries that something was going to go wrong or be worrying about other things. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm really happy that that's a place that I'm at. But then sometimes the other side of that coin is that I'm like too focused on in the moment joy that I'm just like watching videos that bring me joy or doing things that yeah they bring me joy in the moment but they're not moving me forward in any way
So I
and
would argue
that's
that's
hard,
not joy. That's just
right?
pleasure.
Depends on the video.
Yeah, it depends on the video.
You can't tell me that's not joy.
Well,
I'm
for
pretty
me, when I
joyful.
think of joy, I think of it as something that is beneficial to you. And I don't
Yeah,
think watching
yeah.
videos that make you laugh till late at night when you could be doing something else actually is beneficial to you. I
Yeah,
think
I
maybe
think
watching some things once you've done something that is important to you and then you enjoy something on the side,
yeah,
that's awesome. But that's just my
yeah.
viewpoint.
No, I agree. I think I've seen that, being discussed too, and people agree with you. Like, is it real joy if it causes you pain in the long run? And maybe not necessarily pain, but if it, is like my life is existing along just fine, but am I moving forward? I don't really feel that as much, right? So that
Yeah,
in the long term is not going to bring joy to me. That's going to make me feel
right.
kind of stagnant.
See, yeah, because when I think of joy, I think of something really pure, of something really like triumphant.
And like well earned.
Well, almost, yeah. Well, not necessarily all the time well earned, but for example, yeah, if you, for example, finished a chapter in your book and it's actually so great and you feel so impassioned about like moving forward, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a joy that's
Mm-hmm.
very different from the pleasure you get from
Yeah,
watching YouTube videos or TikTok.
that's true. And it's such a different feeling when I make and release a video or write something and I experience that joy than the joy of just like passive ingestion.
Yeah.
Creating over consumption, I think, is brings more joy.
All right, but just to put in perspective, just to put in so just to put into perspective how whack this week has been for me, our sponsor for the week is Christmas tree cakes. Now,
No,
I'm not really a big fan of Christmas or whatever.
I feel
But
like you
I
can't
had
say an actual brand. They're gonna like come for us and be like, no.
no, this is a wholesome podcast. They're grateful to be featured in our podcast. Okay.
Christmas tree cakes.
I finished all of it less than 24 hours.
Oh my God. Yes.
When I came to Vancouver, there were points in time where I just craved sugar, and I didn't grow up with sugar. We didn't even have sugar in the house, so I'm not like the biggest fan of sugar. But when I came to Vancouver, I was craving like cakes and stuff. I was like, "What is wrong with me? Am I deficient in some vitamin or like calcium or something?" So then I googled it, like, "Why do I want so much sugar?" And the first thing that came up was loneliness. I was like, "Oh, accurate."
Oh
Anyways,
man.
so
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I am almost finished my advent calendar and it is November 25th.
doesn't that stuff start like 1st December?
I kind of
What?
just had a point where I decided, yeah, I'm just going to treat this like a box of chocolates today. And I just probably had like 8 in one day. They're
That is a
small.
transgression. Anyway,
Yeah.
so thank you to Christmas tree cakes and sugar in general for sponsoring this episode. Make sure to put in the exceptions podcast for 10% off sugar high. There's so many different things that um, inhibit us from leveling up. But for me personally, I just always have to remember what my goal is at the end of the day and why it's important, like where I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
And again, like looking back, what do I want my future self to say about me now?
Yeah. I liked when you said that, like the two people that you should want to impress the most is your childhood self and your future self.
Yeah, they're the
And
only
that's a
people that
good,
matter at the end of the day.
yeah. And yeah, you want to please your present self and make sure you're actually experiencing life and not, putting off your happiness every day, but doing it in a way where you're also giving happiness to your future self.
Yeah. And I know it's easy to be cynical as well.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Lately, I have been feeling a little bit cynical about all this stuff, but even having these kind of conversations is helpful, or listen to these kind of podcasts when you can.
Mhm.
Everything counts. I remember my friend was saying he hates working out, but sometimes he goes to the gym, and then after he comes back from the gym, he's like, "That was amazing. Feel so good about myself." And he's like, "You know what? Even if I don't go work out every single day for the next 3 months, this week that I worked out will count. It will count for the rest of my life because I did something good this week." So
Yes.
when you do feel the energy or the motivation to try and do better, act upon it, even if it doesn't last for very long, because maybe one
Mhm.
day it will stick.
So why do you think it's so hard for us to hold ourselves accountable and do what we know is going to be good for us in the long run?
Well, because first of all, a cannibal is not a word, but also second,
A cannibal.
sorry,
It
uh,
is somewhere in the world.
you look so done with me. If you're listening to the audio version, she just looks like okay.
I am not even close to done with you. We're only on episode 14.
Well, we have to wrap it up here. But why is it so hard to hold ourselves accountable? I think there's a lot of self-sabotage. Why do we self-sabotage? I think it's because we think we're not good enough. So my challenge is every day tell yourself I am enough. Like tell yourself that every day. Why do you think you can't hold yourself accountable? You too easy on yourself?
Yeah, because I am prioritizing short-term gratification. And you know what? It's so therapize me. Okay, let's go. So I made a schedule for myself where I was like, okay, I want to write you know, um you like an hour in the morning and an hour before I go to bed. After that, I'll have a couple hours where I can do whatever the fuck I want. And I even set alarms on my phone to do that. And I snooze those alarms, or I turn those alarms off every day. I see them every day and I don't listen to them almost every day. Why is that? Like what is going on with my brain? Like it's just I don't think there's any answer. I think the answer is just following through. But I wonder why I just like accept that and do that.
Well, maybe one question. This is what I ask myself is like, what do you want from your life? Like, what do you want from your life?
Exactly.
I
And
just
that's
ask
what
myself
you
like,
need to.
what do you want from your life?
Yeah, I think this is a huge key part in it is keeping it at the forefront of your brain. Like if you don't keep reminding yourself of what you want your life to become and what your goals are, that's when you're hitting snooze on that kind of alarm, because you're disconnected from it and you're living in the day in and day out. So like every morning getting up and having some sort of prompt for yourself to think about, write about, speak about, pray about, meditate about, whatever, that relates to the guidance in your life, because otherwise we just forget about it. I think that's a huge part for me anyway. And so just having it at the forefront of your brain and realizing that it's totally possible to make it happen if you don't forget that you actually want it to happen.
It's not impossible. It is possible. Just remember who you want to be and what you want to do. Okay, Fenmore? Work. All right, everyone.
Have fun out there.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something and then I'll end it.
No, I could say that next episode you can find out why Fenmore peaked at the age of 4. A little teaser for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Exceptions podcast. Make sure you go check out our Instagrams and our socials. Come talk to us and share the love. All right. Have fun out there.